Welcome, those of you who are coming on. Jamie, I feel like I get just double whammy with you this week and last. So keep me updated. Jen C, good to see you. Margaret, I don't know if we've met before. And then we have a 908 area code, so welcome. Hey, Jen.
Hi.
So
Hello,
excited.
everyone.
Yeah, if you'd like to go to chat, tell us where you're coming from today, where you're joining us. We're so excited to have Alethia Tucker with us today out of Maryland.
Yeah,
Right? Yes.
yeah. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, we always have fun conversations. So this
Yeah,
should.
yes, we do.
Oh, what part of Maryland?
I'm in Fort Washington, Maryland.
Okay, I'm in Columbia.
Oh, wow. Not too far.
No,
Not
not
too
too.
far. No, in fact, Jen and I met in Rockville, Maryland, didn't
Oh,
we?
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit of a distance, but only with traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and it's quite a distance from me, but I was out there
Yes.
with a client, and yeah, some of my favorite people are out there.
Oh, nice.
Back patio in Wellsville. Yes. Do you have goats around you today, Jamie? You'll have to let us know because the last time I saw you, you had a goat around you. Beautiful little goat. Margaret's from London. Welcome,
Oh,
Margaret. You
wow.
have to tell us which part of London. I was recently there this summer and went to the Leek Street tunnels to see street
Ooh,
art. I'm really into graffiti and seeing the different sites around the world. Banksy
nice.
and De Lorette, that was the precursor to Banksy, so it's always fun. And we have another person from London. Akbar is on here,
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
England's really showing up today.
There they are. And I'll be there next month.
Will you? What part are you going to?
Yeah. Well, I'm not, well, I know, all I know thus far, and I need to look a little closer, is that it's really kind of close to the central part, is what she keeps telling me.
Okay.
We'll be down, kind of near the Queen's, well, the King's house.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, kind of
yeah. I
in
was
that
in
area.
central London for just a minute or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, welcome. So while we're getting settled, let me just share a couple of things with those of you. And we have a bigger audience that usually listens in. So I just want to tell you that, Alethia, be aware that we won't just be live, that a bigger audience does listen after the fact.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We have two other offerings that we're doing here. There's Margaret. Oh, yes, Margaret, we have talked before. Which Margaret from London is it? There we go. Yeah, I know we've talked before. So we have two really big offerings that we do each month that have to do with courageous growth. One is courageous growth, these free webinars, and they are a variety of topics. Last time we did this, we were talking about the transformational leadership versus transactional leadership. We also once a month have a Reinvention RX call, which is a prescriptive, thus the name, a prescriptive sort of roundtable with people who are reinventing. And so we just had that last week. And so Shannon's going to put that in chat. If you're not signed up for that and you are in career reinvention, you will want to be part of that on a regular basis. And then once a month, those of you who are therapists, coaches, individuals who are leading and managing people as a coach. So you're using coaching skills in your management style. Again, if you're therapists or coaches or want to be a coach, we have a free roundtable where we sit and once a month go over skill building. And this month I'll be taking us deep into how to start your sessions fast and efficiently, how to go deep so that you give more value to your clients, and then how to finish strong so that they are better prepared to leave. So you can get signed up for any of those. They are rotating every month and those are free. And one of the reasons why we do these free is a year ago, Shannon and I set the theme for this year at Soul Salt, which was we're going to measure our success this year, not in dollar signs, but in heartbeats. And so we're doing a lot of outreach and doing free things for those of you who appreciate those. So that's one of our community efforts here. So with that in mind, and a quick introduction, Alethia Tucker got my attention because of integrity. So she and I have a similar interest in career reinvention. And she reached out and said, I wanted to go through one of your courses, but really what I'm interested in is what are you doing in the reinvention circles with your coaching? Because I do reinvention in my coaching. And she could have purchased my course and just added some of my content to hers. And she did not do that. I just thought that I just respect for Alethia. And so we've kept the conversation going, because immediately she started to earn my trust. And secondly, because we did find out that we have a similar passion around supporting people as they go through transitions. And what Alethia Tucker is going to talk about today, from her extensive experience, both personally and professionally with other people, is how important your mindset is. And what I will add to the conversation as we go along is giving you a chance to examine your own mindset, no matter what it is you're trying to do. It could be career reinvention, it could be something else, and where you might be getting stuck. So get ready with a paper, a pen, a pencil, your pad, whatever you like to write with, because this is going to be somewhat interactive at some point. And so Margaret, you can't get your audio to work. Can you hear us, Margaret? Okay, great. So we'll watch for you. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand and put it in chat, and Shannon and I will be watching. Does that work for you, Margaret? Okay, sorry, that's good. That's a harder workaround, but that might be what we have to do today. Maybe just sound is not getting over that ocean because of the hurricane that's coming. Who knows what's happening there? So hopefully that's not the case. But all right, Alethia, how would you like us to start?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much. And I really do appreciate the relationship that we've established over the past few months. And we really do have a great synergy. And I respect that and I love that. So thank you for allowing me to be with your audience here today. And I'm excited to see everyone. And Shannon, I was talking to Shannon earlier, Lynn. Lynn is right. We're going to talk some mindset here. I do a lot of mindset work with my clients. Reinvention, like Lynn said, we share that platform, and I deal mostly with women who are in that space, who are looking maybe kind of approaching those mid years. And really kind of thinking, well, what does reinvention look like for me? And my whole desire to really work in that arena stems from my own experience and having to really reinvent myself. So if I could just, I'll go ahead and share my presentation here and we'll jump right in, if that's all right, Lynn.
Yeah, let me make sure that you can. I think that you're already set up.
Yes, she set me up. Shannon did
Okay.
set me
All right.
up. Okay. So let's make sure. I've had some technology challenges. So far, so good here today. Okay.
Yeah, you can see it. So that's great.
Oh, great. That's the first start, right?
Right.
That's the start. So we're talking about how our mindset really serves as the foundation for any form of personal reinvention that we are pursuing. Right off the bat, I always think of, when I think of just the foundation, I always think of a garden, particularly when we're talking about our mindset, right? And really, if you know anything about it, and I have years in growing up in the country, I was born in South Carolina and my roots are there. And I had grandparents who one was a gardener and she sold to the market. I mean, gardening on a massive level, and really kind of supported her family as my father was growing up, and his father died at an early age. My grandmother had 6 kids. My dad was the oldest. He was in the military at the time at the age of 18 and helping to raise, he was 7, so the other 6. And so I learned a lot from him about gardening, and I learned a lot from her. And I have a real appreciation for it. And I understand that in gardening, it's what you put in there that determines what you're going to yield. You can buy your seeds from the same place. You can buy identical, starter things, and then depending on how you work with them, that determines really what your garden is going to look like. It can be beautiful as the one we see here in this picture, or indeed it can come up with a lot of weeds that really just do stunt the growth of anything that you're hoping to achieve. That is also what I think about when I think of operating in a fixed versus a growth mindset. And that's really what I'm focusing on here today. There are so many different mindsets, but those are the two that I frequently find I have to really deal with people on, things that we really have to pull up strongholds around. And why is it? What is it about the mindset? Well, it really does. It filters our reality, right? It colors how we see the world. It filters the information that we get from the world, and it helps in determining events and our experiences. Our mindset is really the architect of our actions. It really does, determine how we act. It drives our behavior. It's not just about thinking positively, but about really using those thoughts to propel us forward in motion. That's what I'm thinking about. Almost as a tiller would till the land. That is what I'm thinking of here with the garden. And then our mindset is really our resilience builder, right? If we fix our minds in a growth status and not have it fixed kind of in a depleted or a negative way, then we really are opening up our opportunities and really fertilizing our garden so that we can be more productive and be more successful in what it is that we plant. So, in looking at the mindsets again, so I mentioned that there are numerous mindsets, and I'm sure that if you've ever spoken with Lynn, you know that it's not just growth versus a fix, but there's abundance versus scarcity, there's outcome versus process, open mind versus closed, inclusive versus exclusive, and then, of course, positive versus negative. People with an abundance mindset, for example, believe that there is a plenty out there for everyone. Scarcity, you don't believe that there's so much there. You're kind of reserved and you don't think that there's a whole lot offering for you. Outcome versus process. With the outcome mindset, you're really focusing on the end results of your actions, right? Open versus closed. Open, you are really just out there to see what possibilities there are. Closed, you're very limited in what you see as being possible. Inclusive versus exclusive. Inclusive, you're willing to include more, versus, kind of being exclusive. You see the parallels there. And then, of course, positive versus negative. And I think that's pretty apparent there. We know when we are in a position where we're looking at something as gloom and doom versus when even in the most challenging situations, we can see a positive aspect. So those are the different mindsets. But again, we're going to focus here on the growth versus the fixed. So in a fixed mindset, you believe that your abilities, your intelligence, your talents are really kind of static traits. You think you have a certain amount of intelligence and that's it. All right. Did I say growth? I meant to say fixed. Hopefully I did say fixed. Okay.
You said
I
fixed.
did say fixed because that's what I'm describing here. So what's the impact of our behavior? Because we see our capabilities as fixed, our mindset is really kind of more likely to avoid challenges, isn't it? We don't really want to veer off and go into the unknown, so to speak. So you fear that failure might really expose your lack of ability, which you might perceive as being unchangeable, as an unchangeable flaw, for example. So as a result, you're less likely to pursue new opportunities or engage in tasks where you could fail. Looking at the growth mindset, on the other hand, it thrives on challenge. Your fixed mindset could really care less about anything that would be out of what is just almost tunnel vision for you, right in front of you. So it thrives on challenge and it sees failure not as evidence of unintelligence, but as heartening springboards for growth, for stretching, for tilling the land, so to speak, for looking at the other possibilities that are out there and realizing that you do have control in how you think. That can control exactly what you are growing and where you are going. I have a few statistics for us. So, the Journal of Positive Psychology, something that they published out in 2021, the statistic says that people with a growth oriented mindset and strong resilience were 53% more likely to persist in making difficult changes and overcoming obstacles. A couple other things I have there. Mindset work. 62% of women age 40 and older. Again, that's kind of my audience there. Who are willing to make bold life decisions and embrace new opportunities. That's those who have that growth mindset. Versus 25% of women with a fixed mindset, and they're less likely to pursue change. Harvard Business Review, people with a fixed or negative mindset were 50% more likely to avoid or resist life changes. All of these statistics seem to be pointing in the same direction, right? American Psychological Association, 60% of people with a growth mindset were able to overcome fear and embrace significant life changes, versus 22% really kind of allowed fear to paralyze them. So, yeah, there are some statistics out there that really do lend to what it is that we're talking about here when we look at the fixed versus the growth mindset. So, what role does it play in our reinvention? Fixed versus growth. Well, perception of challenges. Our mindset really determines how our challenge is perceived. And we talked about already in the growth mindset, we're willing to look at challenges and kind of pursue them. It plays a role in our response to failure. Again, even when we have something that really may not be one of the most positive things to happen, we find some positivity in it and not automatically go towards what is absolutely the most dismal piece of whatever has happened. We find the opportunity there is, even if things don't turn out just the way that we desire for them to turn out. Adaptability, our openness to strategies. We've talked about that. A flexible and open mindset really encourages us to explore more, doesn't it? Explore various solutions and adapt to strategies that meet demands of the challenges that we're going to come up against. And then a growth mindset really does determine our resilience, doesn't it? Recovering from setbacks. I think about this, and this is probably my opportunity here to tell you a little about my story. In my early years, I was in a horrible accident where I was literally hit by a moving automobile. Actually, it was a school bus. My left foot was absolutely crushed to the point where they really didn't believe that we were going to be able to save my foot. I was in the hospital the entire summer. I literally had to learn to walk again. I was left with a horrible scar that not only scarred my body, but scarred my confidence in myself. It scarred how I looked at the world. It scarred so much about me. Fast forward to my college years, where once I got over being in the hospital and really started to deal with life a little better, I got into college and got into a school that really challenged me beyond what I ever thought I would be able to do. And I struggled. So my apprehensions just continued to foster a lack of self-confidence. It fostered, imposter syndrome it fostered so much with me that my mindset really did begin to change. I found what I could do and I stuck in that lane and I didn't venture out. All of that was really the root of what developed into my adult life, where I was living a real life of mediocrity, one in which I was really stagnant. I stayed in one place for a long time, and I stayed there again because I was comfortable and my mindset was fixed. I could do this. Although I had desires to do other things, I would push those down and determine that I could not do them. After my father died, which was bringing me to the point where I established my business. And he was a person of service, and he was a person who probably more than anybody had a growth mindset. It was at that point, at that catalyst, that I desired to really change my life and say, how if I changed my mindset to go after those things that I truly desired? I started reading, I started implementing things that I had helped so many others with, but I didn't believe it for myself. I established the mindset that was needed in order for me to grow, to go into the vision and the purpose that I knew was designed for my life. That meant dealing with setbacks. That meant dealing with stress. That meant dealing with mental challenges. So many things that I had to overcome. But it was so worth the work that I put in to leave that stagnant, that fixed mindset behind to get to the point of growth and to get to the point where I knew that I could help others to do just the same. So the work had to be done, but it was so worth the effort. And it helped me to develop all these things that I'm mentioning here. I responded to failure differently. I adapted better. Challenges I saw as opportunities, and my resilience really did develop. So I say that always to encourage anyone out there who has been dealing with things and feeling like your fixed mindset is going to remain the same. Changes really can occur. So, what is it? Again, these are a few more things, and I won't continue on these because I know we're also going to do some more work around this. But the role it plays in reinvention, of course, you can learn from your experiences, and it helps to motivate you and make you more persistent. You see self efficacy. You believe in your abilities to exceed. That is so important. And then, when you go into that growth mindset, you engage in resources that are really going to help you, the social support and the collaboration that's necessary. All right, so what does all of this yield? All of this yields empowerment. You have a personal power that you will finally realize, by by looking at your mindset, all right, or referring back to the things that used to hold you back. As you start to realize that you really can grow something in that garden, you really realize the power that you have. Your vision becomes clearer. And then you can start also to look at the things that you can do, some of the practical tools and strategies that I know that Lynn is going to talk to us more about as well. So I'll end here by telling you just a few mindset success stories, a few things that I have done with some clients, with some friends. My whole purpose, and I believe this wholeheartedly, is once you see your way clear, it is your responsibility to help everyone else or anyone else who needs some support in the vision area so that they can see clear also without blinders. I truly do believe that that's a part of my purpose. So I try to do so many things to help in this arena, and it all boils down to the mindset. So I have just a few things. I kind of categorize some of my clients. So I've had follow the leader clients, right? In this scarcity mindset arena. They hold on to someone else's dream because they're not really certain of their own. They know that there's a calling, but they're not sure of it. They feel the dream really isn't worth it, and they put themselves in a comparison trap. So, what does all of this do? It produces that fear of failure. It produces an environment in which the client, really kind of heavily relied on other people's goals and aspirations and figured, I'm going to fix myself on these and this is all I want to do. This worked for them, so this is probably going to work for me. That's what I want to do. When realize not really giving, opportunity to the fact that no, your dream may look a little similar, but it doesn't have to be identical. So there's an intervention process in there that we work through where we do self-awareness exercises. We reframe our challenges. And that whole vision crafting is important because they need to see that their vision really is different from the leaders that they have been following. So then what happens as a result of this? They were able to embrace their personal goals and not push them aside and feel as though they really didn't have any credence or any value. They did some proactive learning in order to be able to grow even more, to foster that growth mindset. And so they had independence and leadership. They were empowered, and they realized that really they were the leader themselves, and it was not necessary to follow anyone else's path but their own. Another success story, the client that I've had, or the clients, I've had a few like this, who really were in the to pursue or not to pursue arena. Those were the ones who were just uncertain, the indecision. They were paralyzed by decision because making a new choice was going to require them to come out of that mindset that, again, had the blinders on. So rather than actually step outside of that, they just wanted to stay within their own lane or within the lane that had been set before them, that they really didn't even enjoy traveling. All right. They haven't identified their true purpose, and they can't really commit to something that they don't know. Right. So they're really kind of floundering. They dread going to work because, again, it's in that one area. They don't have any motivation and they're not sure. So we do a lot of talking. We do a lot of working around things to determine, how is it that I can change? Is this really me? There's a whole other thing, for example, the DISC assessment, which kind of compares, who you are in the job place. Who are you presenting in the job place? Is that really you? How does that compare to who you are outside of the job? That's one thing that I do, for example, with people who are looking into their careers. With the DISC assessment, really does determine if you've just kind of adapted your behavior to what you feel you need to do at work and not really who you authentically are. And we see a lot of that in the people who are trying to figure out to pursue or not to pursue. So we get them to start, moving in areas that are different. Start to experiment some things. That's how I proceeded with a number of these clients. And once they started doing some things, they realized, I really can do this. This looks different. Perhaps I can pursue this. It started to strengthen their resilience and really started to diminish the uncertainty. Once they got to that point, they started feeling as though they were more accepted in what it was that they wanted to do, and they weren't so fearful anymore. And then being able to kind of look and experiment with things, of course, helped to establish self-discovery. And the last client that I'll talk about is the one who hides their light. Yeah, this probably described me the best. I was all about helping everyone else, and I didn't really want the recognition for it. All right. I was told that I had to stay in one place. I just did not feel as though anything that I did outside of this was really going to profit me. I had that gloom and doom look on things. So, I believe that my skills were only suited to be behind the scenes. They really weren't worthy of coming up front. I had clients who felt the very same way. So we had to do exercises that built confidence to let them know, yeah, you really do bring value, and that value deserves to be upfront. Stop being in a mindset of, what I have is not really going to profit much. I can't grow what I have. So we worked through things like that. We did things like role play. Let's try this, and I'll be this person, and I'll do this, and you do that. And then we worked through those different roles, and they saw how they were able to succeed. They were able to embrace challenges again, and they were able to change their perspectives, and they increased their initiative. They started to take more initiative, frequently suggesting things in meetings, for example, and volunteering, because they realized that there was something that they could do that really did bring some value, and that really wasn't stuck in that mode of not being able to advance. So, again, growth mindset versus your fixed mindset. Think of it as your garden. You have an opportunity to plant seeds. You have an opportunity to experiment, to figure out the fertilizer that's going to work best. If the crop doesn't look good the first season, well, then, as we used to do, we would plant sunflowers. My grandmother would, because in the off years, the sunflowers would add the nourishment to the land. So enjoy even that planning process until you know that you're going to get to the next place. Don't stay fixed. Realize that your garden is really yours to determine what you're going to yield from it. That's what I have for you today. I know
Beautiful.
Lynn is going to move forward.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Anyone that wants to come off mute, or if you want to take the slides down, I can see that
Sure.
now better and have questions or thoughts. I think you gave us a really good background about we do need to have the growth mindset that says not yet. We do need to watch out for the fixed mindset that limits us. And your story has always touched me from the first time I read it, of how it would have been so easy to roll over and say, okay, I can't walk again like I want to, but you fought your way back. And I just see that you're a champion and a good example of this growth mindset, Alethea. So thank you for your authenticity.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. So with that set up, this is where you go to your notepad or your paper and pencil, and we're going to take you through something where you can examine some of your mindsets. And the first question is to think about an improvement goal or objective you have for yourself, some place where you want to improve. And maybe it is in your mindset. Maybe there's a limiting belief. Maybe you have a fixed mindset. Identifying, and some of you on this call I know are going to be ahead of this because we've already started to do this in some of our work together. But see if you can identify an objective part of your life that you really want to improve on that has to do with mindset or a belief, and write it down. And then after you've written it down, give yourself 3 boxes. We're going to see if it checks 3 boxes. If it doesn't check 3 boxes, then I'm going to challenge you to revise how you've written it. Because we do want to make sure that you don't get stuck in a fixed mindset or a mindset that will keep you trapped, like Alethea was talking about. So write down that one thing that you would want to improve. I'll give you examples from some of my clients, and I too use the DISC. I have one person who is a high D and a high I, and their improvement goal and objective is they find themselves as a leader talking over people constantly.
Mm.
You know, and it's a strength to be able to be direct and to be gregarious, but sometimes you use telling too much, right, Alethea, if you have a D and an I. And so that's their objective thing that they're working on. I have another client who is working on avoiding magical thinking by getting into reality and being able to accept reality and not get into bargaining and magical thinking about, well, if it was this or that. It's really saying, this is how it is, so this is how it is. Okay, here are the 3 things to check off. First of all, it must be important to you. And the criteria for it to be important to you to change this thing is that you want it or need it, and the result would be a big deal for you. So if you can check that box, that it's important to you, probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7 or higher, then you know you have something you can work with. If it doesn't check that box, see what you can do to revise it so that you write something that's really important to you today. Number 2, it also needs to be important to somebody around you. They don't even need to know you're working on it, but somehow they will feel or experience life differently because you make this shift. And Alethea, when you were thinking about, healing there in the hospital for that summer, I know it was important to you or you wouldn't have done it. Who else was it important to?
It was important to my parents. And it was important to my parents, and it was important to, I would probably say outside of that, my friends.
Yeah, I'll bet they were pulling for you and
They were pulling for me, my neighbors. Because I think more than anything, everyone saw potential. And at that point, I didn't see the potential.
Yeah, you were pretty young.
Yeah, I was pretty young. I didn't see the potential, but I believed what everyone else said up until a certain extent where I started the whole doubt piece.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all fun and games until the doubt creeps
Yeah,
in and erases so much of the good. And you know,
exactly.
looking back on it now, I'm sure it's important to your clients because you have the story, and it's important to your family, your children, the people who see you rising up, right?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is a theme for you. The rising up is a theme for you.
Yes, that is definitely a theme. I do that a lot.
Yes. Yes. So we have must be important to you, must be important to somebody else. And the third criteria is it's a goal or an objective that implicates you, meaning you are the person who can do something about it. You have control over it. So if it hits those three criteria, it's important to you, important to somebody that's not you, but around you, and it implicates you, meaning you have control to do something over it, then you know you have something well written. So if you need to quickly edit it, do so, because we're going to go to the second step. That's the first step, is to write it, identify it. And then we're just going to take about 90 seconds on this next one. So I'll tell you what to write down, and what you'll want to do is make a list. The list has two columns. On one side, it's what you're doing and what you're not doing. And the question to answer is, what are you currently doing and not doing to improve this thing? So what are you doing and not doing? And you have 90 seconds to write about that. So go ahead and start your list. Doing and not doing. Concrete behaviors. And more is better, especially if you're honest. Complete that list. And you can come back and look at it later if you want to extend this, if this is, we're going too fast. Just for sake of time, we want to give you this exercise. And the thing you want to do now is look at the things you're doing or not doing and determine not why you do these things. You don't want to justify or explain how come you're doing. I'm sure you have a good reason. And some of it might just be self-preservation and not having to look at something hard. But make sure that you look at these and see if you can identify one, just one today, that you feel like is really working against you, and circle that one. Which one's really working against you? And now the next thing you want to do is list, if you can find one, two, or three assumptions that are lying under why you're doing that thing. For instance, I was working on something similar to this with a client, And he found that he shuts down when he gets too big of a challenge. And the reason is he assumes that he will look terrible in the face of his friends if he fails. So his assumption is he's going to fail. And then if he does fail, he will look terrible in front of his friends. So you have assumptions behind this thing that you just identified that you'd really like to eliminate that's causing you a lot of pain. And I think the way I said it was the one thing that it's just really working against you. So what are the assumptions? And write down 1, 2, or 3 assumptions that you've made. So, why that exists, or how come that's part of almost your immunity to changing from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And then you're about to get your assignment. So when you're looking at those assumptions, what you want to do is go out and test them. Alethia just talked a little bit ago, and what she and I both prescribe to in the reinvention process is testing things. So go out and test these assumptions and see if they're really true. For instance, with my client, he took on a challenge to do something hard in front of his friends because he wanted to test, A, would he fail? And B, if he did, would his friends change their thoughts and the way they hold him in their minds? Would they change that about him? So he went out and tried something. Lo and behold, he did fail, and his friends supported him more. And so he got courage to create another experiment, and he didn't fail this time. And his friends still supported him. So that's what you'll want to do, is think about, how can I test this assumption and prove to myself that it's either true or it's blatantly false? And that would be your gift. And if anyone wants to get back, you can email me at info@soulsalt.com and let me know, and I'll pass on the information to Alethia. If you test these, I would love to hear what your discovery is. So we'd love to hear from you. So we're going to open up the discussion and see, we still have some time on the schedule here if you want to stay with us. What questions do you have? What thoughts came up during Alethia's presentation? What's coming up for you that you would like us to discuss that came through this exercise about now testing assumptions about mindset? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Akbar.
Right. My question is, do you test assumptions on someone that dislikes you? That's all. That's all I want to ask.
I would never do that. And here's the reason. And Alethia, I want you to weigh in on this, because if I'm testing assumptions, it's not so much that I want it to be all safe. However, I'm very fragile and I'm trying to change my mindset versus prove something.
Right.
And so I would go to a safe place where people are supportive. And the worst place to go, of course, that means that maybe we have a saboteur inside of us if we keep going to people who are not on our team to get our feedback, because that just tells us, yeah, you just want to stay in that loop. So that's my take. Alethia, what would you say?
I wholeheartedly agree. And Lynn, I too am quite sensitive, but I think you are trying to you're trying to, move out of this fixed place, and you're trying to get to a place of growth. So you kind of need some kindred spirits around you, because you already know how easy it is to fall back.
Right.
And to think, yeah. So, to put yourself out there in that way, I don't think is a real smart, well, I'm not, not smart, but it's a real good thing to do. Just, it might end up, pushing you a little further back. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bart, great question. And maybe the 2 criteria you use is, do you trust these people?
Mm-hmm.
And do they support you? And if those 2 criteria are there, then trust them. And by trusting, you may find out that what your criteria for trust is, and this is mine. Shannon's one of these people for me, Shannon Judge, or Shannon D that's on the call, is that I trust her, and I know, even though she's a fan of mine and supports what we do at Soul Salt, she will tell me the truth.
Right.
So that's what I mean by trust. And she will tell it to me in a way that I can hear it, not just slam me over the head with it. So it gives me a headache. So,
Okay, great.
yeah,
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Anybody else that wants to come on and converse or ask a question? Okay. Well, if you don't mind, we are really glad you're here. Alethia, it's such an honor to have you with us. And if you've been listening to this and you think there's somebody who would like to hear this, please send it to them. Shannon's going to be sending this out as soon as we get it recorded and put into an email. And if you would feel like you'd like to today, one of the things that we would love you to do is to go right now to chat and tell us what landed for you today, what inspired you today, what made the impact. And then we hope that, Alethia, tell people how they can follow you. If they want to become a fan of Alethia Tucker, I know you're on Instagram as Alethia Tucker.
Yes. As Alethia A. Tucker, you know, my name is not incredibly common, but I did Alethia Tucker and somebody came up. I was like, wow. So anyway, so I'm Alethia A. I put my middle initial in there. On Facebook, I'm Alethia Tucker. And on LinkedIn, I am Coach Alethia Tucker. So I would love it if you would follow me. And then my company is Jolease Enterprises, JOLEASE, and then enterprises behind that.com.
And so Shannon's taking notes of those, and we will put those in the email so that you can hang on to those and be sure to follow Alethia. Yeah, and we just thank you for being here today. And again, remember, courageous growth happens once a month. It's always a rotating topic. Shannon, who is speaking and what are we doing in November? Do you know for our courageous growth webinar?
Goldie, and you guys meet in a couple of days to confirm the topic, so I don't have that yet.
Okay, so let me tell you about Goldie. Goldie lives in the Hudson Valley in New York. She used to live on the east side, Upper East Side, just off of Central Park. And I met Alethia I met Goldie when I was working with Judith E. Glaser in conversational intelligence. And so Goldie and I and one other friend of ours from that group, we're now masterminds together. And she's coming out to Utah in a couple of weeks to be with us for a mastermind retreat. So usually she talks about boundaries and the courage to be driven. So we'll see what she finalizes, but you will love Goldie as much as you probably have loved Alethia today. We also then have the Reinvention RX, which happens once a month. You can see that link. And again, you get the recordings. And then those of you who are managers, coaches, therapists, people who want to use coaching skills, sit at our roundtable. That's once a month. And that's coming up next week on the 15th at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you're welcome to join us. And thank you. Yeah, Jen, this was really good. Very timely, wasn't it? Yeah, kind of matched up with some things you're working on. So thank you very much. And hope to see you guys next month. Thanks, Alethia.
Thank you very much. It was great being here with you.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.